The Red Sox have a lot of options this offseason. Trading Triston Casas shouldn't be one of them. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and for some reason, Triston Casas has found himself smack dab in the middle of the rumor mill before the offseason has even truly begun. It feels like everyone and their mother is putting Triston Casas into mock trades already, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't think that's a good idea. So what we're gonna do in today's video is talk about exactly that. Why I think Triston Casas should remain with the Boston Red Sox, and why I think he does not make sense to be traded. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Now, I do want to preface this video by saying I personally don't think Triston Casas should be untouchable when it comes to trade possibilities. If there comes a time when the Detroit Tigers or the Seattle Mariners come to the Red Sox and they say, hey, look, we're looking to get rid of George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Tariq Skubal, one of these big name players for a guy like Triston Casas, Christian Campbell, and Wilyer Abreu, I think you have to do that trade every single time, right? What I'm more so focusing on in this video is this idea that has sort of popped up amongst Red Sox Nation. Triston Casas needs to be moved no matter what for this roster, and to me, that just makes absolutely no sense, and I got a lot of reasons why, actually. The first reason is just simply economics. If we look at Triston Casas as an asset, not a player, an asset amongst a marketplace, he's got a lot of hypothetical value. What we're talking about for Casas in terms of value is a potential return of a legitimate middle of the order, one of your best hitters type player that can hit 30 bombs a season, and even in this year when he only played 63 games, that was pretty much proven. He had a 241 average, a 337 on base percentage, and a 462 slug for a 120 OPS plus, 20% above league average. He also had 13 home runs. That's on pace for about 34 home runs over the course of a 162 game season. If he stays healthy, he could be one of the best bats in baseball. It is that simple. And obviously that comes with a high value on the trade market. The problem here is that he didn't play a full season. Triston Casas only played 63 games. If you are an opposing team looking to acquire Triston Casas, you can use that to diminish some of his value. On top of that, there was also some swing and miss issues that when he came back from the IL, he was towards the bottom of the league when it came to strikeout percentage. Yes, that walk rate was still much higher than league average, but the strikeout rate was definitely a concern. Coming off of this season, teams can legitimately use very legitimate concerns to diminish the value of Triston Casas. Why would it make sense for the Red Sox to trade such a potential valuable piece in a time where that value is diminished? If you look at the economics of Triston Casas as an asset, right off the bat, it doesn't make a ton of sense to sell low on a guy like Casas, especially when he's only going into his age 25 season. Another big reason, in my opinion, as to why Triston Casas doesn't really make sense to be moved is simply roster construction. Coming into 2025, if you take a look before they even make any additions, because Craig Breslow has already made it public that he is looking to make additions to this lineup to balance it out a bit, there's a whole lot of log jams throughout the entire roster. The middle infield for the Red Sox right now has a ton of guys vying for playing time on this team. Just looking at it, you've got Story, Grissom, Gonzalez, Sogard, Hamilton, Valdez, Campbell, Meidroth, Meyer. All of these guys could possibly be vying for a spot on this Red Sox team. In the outfield, you've got four really talented players all looking for a spot on this roster. Duran, Abreu, Wilyer. That doesn't even mention the fact that Rob Refsnyder could be back next season. That doesn't mention the fact that they may try to put Masataka Yoshida in the outfield next season. Both of these areas have a ton of depth to trade from, whereas Triston Casas on this roster has, well, first base, Triston Casas, right? There's not really an everyday backup for Casas over there at first. You've got some guys who could spot start every once in a while to take over for Triston Casas. Connor Wong played some games at first base, but he is certainly not an everyday first baseman. Romy Gonzalez played some first base. He wasn't exactly fantastic over there. Nick Sogart's played maybe 2 or 3 games at first base in his career, right? What you're looking at is an entire area, 2 areas of this team where you could could trade from and still have talent to replenish that loss. Trading Triston Casas, an area where you don't have that depth, it would totally create another issue the Red Sox need to solve. If you traded, say, Chase Meidroth and Vaughn Grissom, well, you'd still have a ton of players to plug and play at that second base spot. If you traded, say, a Duran, a Willier, or a Cedon, you would still have the number one prospect in baseball to take that spot. If you were to trade Triston Casas, you've got Connor Wong to take that spot. That doesn't make a ton of sense, right? You would be acquiring probably a solid starting pitcher, but you would also have to then go out and figure out how you're going to fill that first base position. And I've seen a lot of people say, well, the solution's pretty simple. Move Rafael Devers over to first base. And as much as I love Rafael Devers, he's not exactly the best defender in the world. In fact, he's pretty consistently one of the worst third base defensive players in baseball. Do we really think it makes sense for the Red Sox to, one, move Rafael Devers over to a position that he's never played in his entire life, and two, put a player who statistically probably is your worst infield defender into a spot where he not only has no experience, but he's also impacting the game basically every single ground ball that comes on the infield? That makes absolutely no sense at all. So if we're taking a look at just simply beyond the person that Triston Casas is and looking at economics and roster construction, neither of those really line up for a legitimate reason to trade Triston Casas. But a lot of people aren't totally equating reasons to trade Triston Casas with just simply assets and roster construction. They want to trade him for the person he is. So I also want to talk about that as well. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It simply helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Let's get into some other reasoning here. So two of the biggest reasons I've seen from fans, either in my comment section on Twitter, wherever, say they want to trade Triston Casas is kind of on a personal level. They say, oh, he's a unique personality, which means he's probably a diva in the clubhouse, which means he's probably not a great teammate. The other thing I see a lot is that they didn't get a deal done with Triston. They were too far apart. Triston's going to demand too much money. It's impossible to get a deal done with him. You might as well get some value from him. And I'm going to address both of these, but I want to start with the idea that Triston Casas is a bad teammate. And while he is an incredibly unique personality, and while his pregame routines are a little odd, some may even call it a little dorky, right? I would call it a little dorky. It's a weird thing to do before pregame routines. The idea that this makes him a bad teammate is coming out of flat out nowhere, considering there is so much evidence to point to the opposite. I'm going to go through it because I don't know how many people are actually going to believe that. First thing I want to talk about is how Triston Casas spent his offseason last year. Instead of doing his own personal unique routines, Triston Casas went to every single possible Red Sox player event to make sure that he's introduced to his new teammates and making connections with his old ones. He spent his time at the rookie development camp in Boston, even though he wasn't a rookie coming into 2024. His reasoning was because he wanted to get to know the big young names in the Red Sox system. The second thing he did was go to Trevor Story's infield camp. He wanted to make sure, again, that camaraderie amongst his teammates is there. When it came to time to get to spring training, Triston Casas was one of the first people down in Fort Myers. So not only did Triston Casas spend his offseason getting to know and ensuring that his connection with his teammates is really good, teammates absolutely love him. This is a dude who, despite saying weird things on interviews or despite having a weird pregame routine, simply loves the game of baseball to the point where in his free time, he doesn't spend it vegging out on the couch, binge watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. No, this dude is watching YouTube videos of Hall of Fame speeches. He watched a YouTube video of Jim Thome's Hall of Fame speech. Since then, he's consistently been the last person to leave the locker room. He is the last player to leave the park after games consistently, to the point where clubhouse manager has to tell him that there is a time limit on how long he can be there, right? We're talking about a guy who lives and breathes baseball. Josh Winkowski called Triston Casas his favorite teammate ever. Rob Refsnyder, Alex Cora, Cutter Crawford have all spoken extremely highly of who Triston Casas is as a teammate. When I was was in Worcester personally, and the big three were down there before Christian Campbell got called up. Triston Casas was rehabbing. I just casually asked them about what they think about Triston Casas. Every single one of them said the exact same thing. They said that Triston Casas is someone who cares about the game of baseball more than anyone they've ever met, and that he's a fantastic teammate and has been really great to them since they've been called up. Does that to you sound like someone who is legitimately bad for this Red Sox clubhouse? No, right? Not at all. This idea that because he's a unique personality and because he's a weirdo when it comes to hitting techniques or sunbathing in the outfield, he's some sort of diva in the clubhouse just simply is not true. Teammates love Triston Casas. It's weird to me that fans want so badly for players to actually show their personalities. We get so many conversations over the years about guys who are just simply PR machines, right? They come out there, they say the lines that they're supposed to say, and then they head home, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, I guess it was all thanks to your teammates. I guess you put your head on right in the batter's box, you saw a good pitch, you hit it out of the ballpark, but we want more. And then Triston Casas comes along, he's a guy who gives you more, and anytime he opens his mouth, he's absolutely crucified for it. It doesn't make sense to me. But I also wanted to get to the other point that I brought up here, and that is not being able to get a deal done. For some reason, it feels as though, especially from Red Sox fans, that if a deal isn't done, well, that's never going to happen. But the reality is you've got 4 off seasons to figure that out. Triston Casas is not a free agent until the 2029 off season, meaning they could get a deal done going into this season, the next season, a season after that, maybe even the season after that before he's a free agent. They could also possibly just simply bring him back in free agency. Just because they couldn't come to an agreement in 2023 shouldn't mean that they can't come to an agreement throughout the next 3 or 4 years. And I do kind of understand the rationale for that. Red Sox fans have been burned a couple of times by players who just simply the Red Sox could not lock up before free agency. Mookie Betts is the big one that comes to everybody's mind. Xander Bogaerts is another one who's at the top of that list. Those are guys who the Red Sox should have locked up, but absolutely didn't. So there's some residual side effects, I think, amongst Red Sox Nation where the assumption is, oh, a deal isn't getting done. No way it ever gets done. We need value. We can't let him go to free agency and lose him for absolutely nothing. When in reality, there is a legitimate possibility that by the end of 2027 or the end of 2028, Triston Casas is locked up for a pretty long period of time. The assumption that there isn't going to get a deal done is a little bit far-fetched in my opinion because there's just so much time to work with him on that number, and Triston Casas could get more comfortable here. The Red Sox could say, wait a second, we really need this guy and up his numbers. So many things can happen to get a deal done. To me, it feels so early to just totally give up on that possibility. So when you're looking at it, again, if the perfect deal comes along, if Triston Casas has to be traded for the Red Sox to get what they need this offseason, I don't think it should stand in their way. I do think there is a world in which trading Triston Casas is the only way to success for the Red Sox, but I think more realistically, there is a way for them to avoid trading Triston Casas and still get what you want, and that should be the way the Red Sox go because there's so many reasons not to trade this guy. I truly think Triston's going to be here for a long time, and I truly think he is going to be one of the better players the Red Sox have had in a while, and trading him now, especially given the roster construction and given the value of his asset, to me just simply does not make sense. But that's just my opinion. I'm sure there are a lot of people who think differently, so let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about this? After all the reasons I gave in this video, do you still think it's a smart idea to trade Triston Casas? And if you do, why is that? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps this video out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.